What is going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well. This is the intro. There will probably be a few different intros to the whole genocide unit. And at times we might take a break from the genocide unit because, it can get pretty grim when you're talking about the deaths of a million, mostly innocent people. It's just horrible. But this is the intro here. We are going to start it. We'll take a break from it at some point. But today we are going to start talking about a place called Cambodia. So before we get into the whole genocide thing, I would like you to know a little bit about the culture, where it's located. So we're actually going to watch this video here. We'll watch this guy a few times. Cambodia. Usually when we start a new region, Armenia, we'll watch a video from this guy. It's called Geography Now. Maybe you've seen it. They're pretty popular. He does a pretty good job of like showing you where the country is, the culture, a little bit about that. He will talk a little bit about the genocide, but obviously not as much as we will. So before we get into that, I just want to say we are going to be studying this unit a little bit differently than the other two teams. They are going to stick mostly to the Holocaust. We will talk about the Holocaust, but it's not the be all end all. What I would rather us talk about in this class, study in this class, is that genocide could happen pretty much anywhere and at any time, given the right circumstances. I will even argue that it could happen in the United States. We have already talked about when Trail of Tears, indigenous people, that would definitely be a genocide for sure. And if not a genocide, something called ethnic cleansing, which we will get to. I don't want to throw too much information at you at once, though. So if we just studied the Holocaust, I think that would be too easy. A lot of people could come away from that unit saying, oh, that's a German thing. Oh, if it wasn't for Hitler, it never would have happened. So as long as we don't have people like Hitler, we don't have to worry about genocide. And if by the end of this unit, I think if we study, I think it's 5 or 6 different times when genocides happened, it's better proof that this could happen anywhere. It's not just a German thing. We're going to talk about several different continents. Rwanda, they're in Africa. Cambodia, they're in Asia. We'll also talk about Armenia, which is really close to Europe, but not quite. And then we'll talk about the Holocaust. It's a European thing. We'll even talk about Serbia, which happened as recently as the 90s. There were 2 major genocides in the 90s. There might even be one happening right now in Ukraine, and there might be one happening right now in parts of India, Burma area, or Myanmar, it's called nowadays. So genocide is something definitely people have to be worried about. Given the right conditions, it could happen anywhere. And those conditions usually mean people are worried about their safety. They're worried about where their next meal is coming, and they find something called a scapegoat. So I'm wondering, I'll pause right here. What is a scapegoat? Does anybody know? So hopefully somebody said it, but this is often talked about when you're talking about genocide. And so let's just take one of the most famous ones, the Holocaust. The Great Depression was going after World War I. The Great Depression happened, right? And it affected not just the United States. We talk about it affecting the United States, and it did, but it affected Europe way more. Like people were way more desperate. And parts of Europe, not just Germany, parts of Europe thought that people who were Jewish were the problem. They were the scapegoat. They were the people that you could blame the hard times on. And so there was a calculated effort to exterminate that group of people. When we talk about, excuse me, when we talk about Cambodia, it's not going to be people who are Jewish. It's going to be communists, and we'll get into a little bit of the backstory. But in Rwanda, it's going to be different tribes. In Serbia, it's going to be religion again, Christians and Muslims. In Armenia, it's also going to be Christians and Muslims, but in the reverse. So I think any group of people, again, the circumstances have to be perfect. We're a long ways away. It's not on the horizon in the United States, but if certain things happen and the economy collapses and we need to blame somebody, well, hopefully our form of government with the checks and balances that we've talked about, hopefully that will prevent it, because one kind of overall theme when it comes to genocide is that you do have one person, you have a dictator. I think in almost every one, you have one person making a lot of the decisions. But please, when it comes to the Holocaust, it's not just Hitler. Yeah, he was a horrible guy, but there were a lot of people, probably hundreds of thousands of people that thought, yeah, this is a good thing. This needs to happen. So it's a little bit more complicated than, oh, this guy Hitler was bad. He killed all the people who are Jewish. No, there were people in other countries that were like, this is a good thing. How can I help? All right. So Cambodia, let me share this map with you here. You're going to see this in the Geography Now thing, but let's just try to find out where in the world Cambodia is. If you look right there, it's that little country. We got China, we got India. Hopefully that gives you an idea. And then we can zoom in a little bit. Vietnam borders Cambodia. And if you've studied any U.S. history or in Mr. Bim's class, you will with the Vietnam War with the United States. The United States and Vietnam went to war starting in the early 60s to the kind of the mid 70s. And after that Vietnam War, where Vietnam wins, they are going to invade Cambodia after late 70s. And that's what's going to end the genocide. But when everything is all said and done, about 25% of the Cambodian people are going to be killed in this genocide. 25%. That's huge. I don't know if that's the highest percentage of people in a country, but it's up there. So let's take a look at this thing. Now, this is from a college website, the University of Minnesota. I just want to do a little bit of reading here to give you an idea. And this is a great website. I can leave the link if anybody is interested in Google Classroom, but some of the things that I've talked about already. So Armenia, Cambodia, the Holocaust. I forgot, we will talk about the Holodomor that is in Ukraine during the Soviet Union, and we will talk about Rwanda. We really haven't, the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862, this would be again like the U.S. government and indigenous people. So let's make this a little bit bigger if we can. The killing fields. When you hear something called the killing fields, that is synonymous with the Cambodian genocide. In the highlighted part right here, lasting for 4 years between 1975 and 1979, the Cambodian genocide was an explosion of mass violence that saw between 1.5 million and 3 million people killed at the hands of the Khmer Rouge. So that might be a new term for you. Don't worry, just keep reading, because look at this little comma here. Then there's the sentence ends. This is telling you what the Khmer Rouge was, communist political group. The Khmer Rouge had taken power in the country following the Cambodian Civil War. During their brutal 4-year rule, the Khmer Rouge was responsible for the deaths of nearly a quarter of Cambodians. So what is going on in this area is something that was happening in Vietnam. You had the US and the Soviet Union. They're not actually fighting a war, but they are backing groups in Vietnam. They're backing groups in Cambodia. So obviously the Soviet Union is going to be backing the communists, and the US is going to be backing people who are more likely to practice free trade, something like that. Excuse me. So with all this money pouring in, control of the country trying to be worked out, the struggle, there are going to be some gaps, and strong people are going to fill those gaps and then try to get revenge on the people they were fighting earlier. And that is what's going to lead to that genocide in Cambodia. So we're only scratching the surface. We'll probably spend the next week on Cambodia, talk about a man who has a very funny name. His name is Pol Pot, but he was the leader of the Khmer Rouge. And yeah, some horrible, horrible things are going to happen. Now, we could get really grim with genocide. Anytime you're talking about the deaths of possibly 3 million people, it could get rather graphic. And we are going to stay away from that stuff. I don't want to show pictures of dead bodies, anything like that. We'll try to get through this entire unit without showing a lot of the graphic stuff. And I don't even want to get into like some of the ways that, people were killed, because those also can be like a lot of torture before that happens. I don't think we don't need to study that. I think hopefully that when we end this unit, you'll come away with having an idea that this could happen anywhere. Like, it's common. It's not just a one-time thing where, yes, the Holocaust, about 6 million people were killed. And we'll get into it. It wasn't just people who were Jewish. That was the bulk. But yeah, it's just scary when those things start spiraling out of control. All right. The next part that we're going to watch is going to be a little bit lighter. It's going to be about the country of Cambodia, beautiful country, a country I would love to visit one day. Just the scenery there, in Vietnam too. It's just like, looks like a beautiful part of the world. So I would love to visit there one day. But, when I do visit, if I do visit, just kind of pay my respects. There is one kind of famous museum in Cambodia. I think it will be mentioned in Geography Now, but it was like a high school that was just turned in the center of the city, Phnom Penh, turned into just like a torture chamber and prison just awful stuff. So that's all I have to say about that for right now. Then we'll watch, his name's Paul B. Sometimes he calls himself Barbie, from Geography Now. It's like 11 minutes. You'll get a quick snapshot, a little better understanding of the country, and then some time to work in class, because I'm putting in today. Probably by the time you see this, the grades will be in for the persuasive techniques. So, and again, only like 30 people did it. So grades are not looking great for a lot of people in the third quarter here. So please work on that. If there's time, probably will be maybe time for Frank and Beans. We'll get to that. All right. A lot of talking today. See ya.